Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host and executive producer, and heading up Pewaukee, Wisconsin, home of the J.J. Watt and T.J. Watt, and pretty close to Madison, Wisconsin, where the Big W is. And Eric Clark is the host and producer and creator of Where to Hunt app. He has a podcast, and he's an all-around interesting character. He's smart and he's articulate, and I look forward to having a visit with him today. Eric, welcome to the show.
Howdy, Bruce. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it a whole bunch. And I don't know how smart I am. I don't like to think I'm too smart, but I appreciate the feedback, the compliment.
Well, you created an app. I haven't created an app yet. I probably never will. So there you go.
I have a lot of ideas, and this one I wanted to actually execute against and not be the guy that I had this idea once. I wanted to actually do it. So
good for you, and I like that. So let's start off the show. As everybody knows, there's a lot of quote-unquote hunting apps out there. So what's so special about Where to Hunt?
Sure. Where to Hunt, I say it's a unique in the world GPS hunting app. I say that because there, to date, as many apps as there are on the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store, there's not one that does what my app does. Now, my app has one feature that others do, but the main feature of the Where to Hunt app is to help you or illuminate where other hunters are in the woods around you. Totally anonymous. When you go into the Where to Hunt app, it doesn't ask you for your name. It doesn't ask you to sign in with Facebook. It doesn't ask you to do anything. It just gets you right into the map, and that's it. And what you'll notice is there's a dot, and that dot represents you. So it's interesting because if there's one person on the app, it is rendered completely useless. Quite literally, if I had one download, the app would not function. And when I have two downloads, it becomes interesting. Up to 100 miles, you can see other users that are also in the app. You can't tell that it's John Smith or Bruce Hutchin or Eric Clark. You can't tell who that is. You just see the dot. And if there's four, it becomes significantly more valuable. And as it stands to date, we have tens of thousands of downloads, I guess I can say without giving the exact number away. And there's people using it all the time. Hunting season, when that kicks on, it looks like the country has chicken pox. When I see it on the admin portal, I can see everybody everywhere. I don't have the limitation of 100 miles. But it helps you scout smart and hunt safe. And that's our tagline, scout smart, hunt safe, because modern day hunters, by and large, a lot of us don't have a whole lot of time to put in scouting. And if you do, it's off season. So all the work you do in the off season to find a good spot, you get out there when the season kicks up, whether you're bow or gun. You get out there and maybe someone else beat you to it, or maybe you were the first one there and someone else stumbled upon you, whether they're passing through or getting to your spot as their destination or vice versa. It'd be great to know if you could have avoided that situation. And that situation has been avoided for a lot of hunters around the country by simply downloading the Where to Hunt app and getting some visibility as to where other hunters might be in the woods so they can avoid them or that they can be avoided. And that's what my app does that no other app does. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people. You should add the wind. You should add the weather. You should add this or that. I've kept all of that out because as hunters, we're pretty simple creatures. We like to spend time outdoors. We like to chase whitetails. We like to chase turkeys or whatever it is that you're into, whether it's elk, deer, it doesn't matter. Keep it simple, like the staying kiss, right? Keep it simple, stupid. I don't want to cloud the app with all of these extra features. I want to do the one thing and do it really well. There's a book that actually talks about this called Good to Great. It's called The Porcupine Approach. You just kind of go about it really slow, and you just do the one thing that you're good at. And, it's served well because there's been a lot of adoption of the application up to date, and the feedback is visceral. Like I mentioned on our Facebook Live, people love it because it's valuable to them. Their loved ones can see where they are. Whether that's someone back home like their wife or significant other, or it's their dad or their buddies or their uncle or their brother or their sister that's in the woods with them. Or I think I forgot where I was going with that for some reason. I just derailed myself. But yeah, I totally forgot where I was going with that. That's funny. Maybe you can help me out.
Well, you're rolling through and talking about the application and not cluttering it. You want to keep it simple, and you
Yeah,
want to keep it focused on the important thing to you was, okay, here's where I am. And then you're also alluded to in Facebook Live episode that you have a closed group or a closed community or hunting team.
that's what it
Um,
was. Thank you, Bruce.
you're welcome.
Uh, yeah. So what I was saying, before I derailed myself, was that the hate for it comes from the fact that hunters look. We do so much and we work so hard, especially like I'm a huge proponent of public land hunting, and I only talk about things that I know. If I'm talking about something I don't know, I get pretty quiet. But what I do know is public land hunting. Now I don't know private land hunting, so I don't ever mean to diss it. I just don't know how to. I don't do it, so I don't know enough about it. So that's why this is in the public hunting sector when I talk. And the people that hate it because they're afraid that their spot's going to get taken. Now, I have a few responses to that. One being, A, it's public land. It's not technically your spot. Two, or B, is the guys and gals that are willing to go the extra mile, the Dan Infalts of the world, as I would say it, that go through swamps and marshes in their underwear or whatever, across rivers, that's a pretty small percentage of the hunting population that go that extra mile. A lot of guys and gals are perfectly content or okay with just going to the nearest tree and hanging out right there, right? Not everyone is trying to get to that extreme location. So you showing your spot in that extreme location doesn't necessarily mean someone's going to get to it. Actually doing something fun with the hunting beast later this season that we're working on. So we'll see where that ends up. I won't say much more. But the response that I had to that hatred was, okay, well, I'll give these people a place and these hunters a place to use the app to get the functionality of tracking their buddies in incognito mode. So if you upgrade to Pro version, $299 currently, you go incognito. And on the technology side of things, what that does is it fires up another server in the cloud. It's all in the cloud anyways. And that is your private server. So you and your hunting party, whether it's 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. It's limitless. However many people you want to add to that group, you can hunt in your own space inside of the app without the public community seeing where you are. Now you're effectively getting the same exact experience, just without all of the eyeballs. So your whole qualm of someone's going to take my spot, that can be squashed by just upgrading and using the app that way.
One thing I'd like to say, hunting public land, it's public land. You don't own it. You don't have a right to that stump, that saddle, that blind that you built last summer, and somebody's sitting in it. If you leave a blind up, if you leave tree stands up, in some places you can't do it. But even if you just brush in around a tree and stuff and say, "Oh, that's my spot," guess what? It isn't.
It's your spot for the day or for the hunt. That's how it ought to be.
Yeah, and if you get there first, you do. I used to duck hunt a lot, and we had blinds up and down the Mississippi River. Whoever got there first, that was their blind. I mean, for the day. I mean, that's just what it was. And you go, oh, he's in Pintail Point, and you go, oh, I really wanted to hunt that today. Well, you got backups.
Oh well, you got to move on. Yeah,
you got
backups. That's it.
Yeah. But so many people get wound up about that, and I just wanted to throw that out. It's public land, so it's everybody's land, and if somebody's in your spot, whatever that looks like, move on.
Yep.
And your app would help you do that, actually.
So it's so funny because this past weekend, literally last Saturday morning, I went out with a buddy to go bow hunting. We took a canoe up a river upstream to get to a remote location to avoid a lot of the other hunters. It worked. We got away from the majority and the masses. But right where we were going to, dock isn't the right word, but beach the canoe or whatever you want to call it, drag it onto the land, there was another canoe already there. Yeah. So I was like, oh, man. And I wasn't mad because someone beat me to it. That's my own fault that I wasn't there first. But I felt terrible that I was going to disrupt their hunt because there wasn't another spot to really go without going another hour up the river. And so we put in there anyways. We put it next to theirs kind of, and we walked in. And I was just super cautious. And we ended up I found one of the guys, he was sleeping. So I went around him, gave him a huge berth. And I'm looking at the map on my phone and trying to figure out, okay, my buddy ended up there. I can see where he is through the Where to Hunt app. And like, where do I want to go? And as I'm doing this, looking at this, I hear someone let an arrow fly. I hear a bow get shot. Now, I have no idea where this other guy is. I couldn't see him, and he hit a deer. I heard the thwack, and there was a doe, and she came running right past me. This was Saturday morning. It was super exciting. I'm like, holy crap, like, I have no idea where this guy was. Hit a deer. I don't know if he saw me or if I had anything to do with this situation playing out the way that it did. Couldn't tell you. The guy that was sleeping eventually came through. I just stood where I was the whole time. I didn't want to mess up his hunt and, spook the deer if it was crashing to die or whatever. And the guy that was sleeping came by and I said, it sounds like your buddy got a good shot on a deer. He's like, yeah, he called me. It was a good hit. I'm like, cool. She went this way. It sounded like she may have crashed. So, good luck. And then I went on to find a different spot. I could have avoided those guys pretty easily if they would have been using my app. I could have never even went into that property. I could have maybe even ahead of the canoe trip tried to do something differently altogether. And again, I wasn't mad because someone had taken my spot. I was more like just concerned that, man, I don't want to ruin these guys' hunt. Now I'm the jackalope that's coming in after the fact, running through the woods late like an idiot. And we weren't even that far behind sunset or anything like that. It's just how it worked out. They just beat us to it. But again, it's just one of those things that, from a safety standpoint, I don't think I was anywhere near getting shot with a bow, right? I just don't think that would have happened. But gosh, it would have been good to know that there was someone up there ready to let an arrow fling.
Yeah.
So scouting smart and hunting safe. Again, that's just kind of it. So that was a perfect use case for where the app could have really helped us and them out.
Now, how do people reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So there's plenty of ways through social media. I respond to all of them. It all comes with the same device, right? The iPhone or the computer. But where2huntapp.com is a great place to start. Where, the number 2 or the word TO. Either way, where2huntapp.com. All the social channels are there: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And then the app, you can download it from that website by clicking on, if you're an Android user or an iPhone user, you click on whichever one you like. And you can also hear the podcast from there too. Podcast tab right on the top. Click that. And, during hunting season, I'm trying to do an episode a week. Doesn't make my wife too happy, but that's what we're shooting for. So that's how you can get a hold of me if you'd like to. I'd love feedback. I love the reviews. That's my oxygen. I don't make a whole lot of money off of this stuff. So any feedback is really, really welcomed, even if it's negative, then I can improve.
That's great. Let's step back, and you're a young kid, and you're hunting with your dad. And folks, he's got a YouTube channel, so go to that too. I believe it's Where to Hunt.
Yeah, it ought to be. Better be.
Yeah. It better be, right? But anyway, let's go back, turn the clock back, and talk about your hunting tradition, because Wisconsin does have a very rich hunting tradition. No question about it, and I'm glad to be part of it. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm 32 now. It's 2018, so for those of us that listen to this, 2 years, whatever, we have a benchmark or whatever. But I didn't actually start hunting until I think I was like 15 or 16, somewhere in there. I wanted to hunt earlier. The opportunity didn't arise as far as hunter safety and all that stuff as a kid growing up. But I ended up starting to hunt with my dad, and we hunted the Nicolet National Forest here in Wisconsin, which is very northern part, bordered right up to the UP in the upper northern, kind of northwestern part a little bit. Privets, Phelps area, and those are big woods. And those first couple of years, I didn't see a damn thing. And I froze my tail off. I mean, I remember it specifically being like negative 15 degrees. And I loved every second of it. It was the best thing in the world. Being in those big woods, knowing that there could be bear or wolves, it just excited me. I loved that. I was so stoked to just see like even little tiny birds, the little finches or whatever that come through and land on your tree and me, they make those little weird noises. Loved it. And then I would see a field mouse, or I would see, squirrels and just being a part of when the woods come to life. And I'm a pretty fast talker. I stay pretty active all of the time. And for me, this became an opportunity to stop moving through the world and let it move around me for a second. And I found peace in the woods. And it's never really about the hunt or the kill as much as it is the experience and the adventure. My dad, our version of scouting is just what's over the next hill. We always just wanted to see what's over the next hill. So we would press on and press on and press on like a bunch of idiots just because we wanted to see, well, maybe over this next hill, that's that spot that we're looking for. And so we would get ourselves pretty deep into the forest, scouting for deer. So that's where I made most of my early memories of hunting. And it wasn't until I was 21 or 22 when I finally shot my first deer. So it took some time to make it finally happen. But hunting the North Woods was tough, man. That was tough going up there.
Now, do you still hunt the Northwoods?
No, we haven't, and I want to get back up there pretty bad. So at some point, I fully do intend on it because the experience is very different there. But we've been hunting the western part of the state now, Prairie du Chien and Grant County, which is bluff country. It's beautiful, different type of scenery, but the deer population's significantly different down over there than it is up north. And then for bow hunting, I hunt wherever I can. I hunt all around Lake Country in southeastern Wisconsin. I go all over the place. That's considerably within an hour radius of my house. And I'm always exploring new properties. One of my goals is to add 1 to 2 new properties to my list every year so I can continue to have more options, plan B, right?
Right. And you're talking public land. And
you got it.
Eric is a DIY public land guy. And that's tougher in Wisconsin, you might think. Surprisingly, there is a lot of public land, even in Buffalo County. Some of it's tough to get into, as I found out last year. I went into a place in Buffalo County, and I should have had a canoe.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. But there's some other places, Trumpeldor County and Buffalo County, and that are huntable, and so there's opportunity. I guess what I want to say to the listeners, there's opportunity in Wisconsin to hunt public land, and some huge bucks. I'm not talking, 150 class. I'm talking huge bucks are taken off public land in Wisconsin by archers every single year.
The spot that I hunted over the weekend, or similar to it or close by, someone got a 15-pointer in the same property, just a different section. Last year, 2 weeks before I hunted the same property last year. They're out there for sure. And I talked to the DNR on my podcast last week, or earlier this week, I should say, Monday, the 24th, I believe. And I can confidently say that he told me that Wisconsin has 7 million acres of public hunting land available.
Yeah. And out west, that's not a lot. No,
yeah.
I'm being tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
That's a lot of land, folks, and, if you go from New Mexico to Montana to Canada, we have millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of public land, both BLM and national forest. But, whitetails, it's a little bit different story. And I remember hunting out of Wausau, and I would see deer within 100 yards of the parking lot, because people would go in and they'd push it in, and the deer would just loop back because they know where the people were going, and they just would be close. I can't tell you how many times I walked out and looked over and there's a doe looking at me, or a young buck. I'm going, they're just smart, and they get educated really well. That's one challenge about public land, and you can help me with this, is how smart they are, because a lot of people, they only have certain access points and certain exit points, and the deer learn that. So talk to me about your hunting public land strategies in Wisconsin.
Actually, something I've started to realize a couple years back is hunting state parks and state land, or whatever, even county parks if available, where there's a lot of foot traffic of people and dogs already. You're not playing as much of a close game with scent as you would be in that scenario, because they're exposed to people. People walk through these trails, these walking and hiking trails all the time, and they're talking. And so I think I've had success in areas like that because you're not new to that space, versus if you think about the Northwoods, the deer sees you up there, they're like, what the hell is that thing? It's totally different. So that's one thing. Something I've learned that I guess I've learned so much by doing a podcast, because I talk to so many people that have way more experience and success than I do. One of them specifically, I mentioned him earlier, Dan Infault. The biggest takeaway I have from him is use water to separate yourself from other hunters. And so me taking the canoe out last weekend is a perfect example of that. If those other guys weren't there, I would have had a shot on that doe, and hopefully anyways. But additionally, hunting a property where there's only 2 other hunters rather than 15 or 10 or whatever it was, that got me further away. So the thing about public land hunting for me, I think, is especially what I try to solve with the app. The problem I'm trying to solve is that this is not a statistically correct statement. This is my own way of saying it, but it could be the case that 90% of your time is spent scouting to get away from other hunters, let alone try to find out where the deer even are. So with the Where to Hunt app, I've been able to help solve that problem by getting away from other hunters. So water is one thing that I've learned that can help you separate that and get away from other hunters, as well as obviously using the app, of course. But that's something that I've learned recently that I've been trying to put into action over the last year or two.
And water includes swamps, not just a water.
Like a river or a creek, swamps for sure.
Yeah, I was just trying to see some of the
marshes and.
Yeah, down in Grant County where I hunted, Little Grant Creek, I think it was, or Big Grant Creek or whatever. Anyway, Grant Creek coming out of Grant County. Anyway, it was interesting. The deer will use that, but if it gets in the wrong situation, people won't cross it. And the deer cross it all the time.
Yep.
But people won't. Along the Buffalo River, there's places that people won't get into because they just won't get into it. I used to duck hunt some of the backwater sloughs, and so I figured out how to take my canoe and get back in there. And guess what I sometimes saw when I was duck hunting?
Monster bucks.
Duh.
Yeah, I think duck hunters have stumbled onto something. If they care about deer hunting, they likely have come to similar conclusions.
Yeah,
we're just catching up.
It's just a matter. And Dan Infalt, he's infamous, or he's famous. I mean, he really gets it. And so anytime, folks, you can listen to his show or his seminars or get a hold of his content, you're going to do yourself well served. So what's in store for you now? What are you looking at, today and the future, for your hunting?
For hunting in general, just to keep improving. I think if you stop learning as a hunter, you might as well pack up your stuff and go sell it because you're done. You can never stop learning as a hunter. I approach life and hunting this way. I think I sent you an email, something similar, but this quote is not mine. It was, and I'm not going to get the quote verbatim, but perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. And I believe in that quote because I'm the most optimistic person that I know. And what I mean by that is if you approach a situation through optimism and you think that there's a good outcome there and you have a positive way of coming at that thing, like, for example, the hunting I did last Saturday, right? And I ran into other hunters. The negative answer would have been, oh, crap, there's someone in my damn spot. This sucks. Now I got to move on. This is terrible. That's a negative or pessimistic approach. But if I'm going to approach it with optimism, oh, cool. Now I get to go explore some more land. I get to learn this property differently. It's going to be, this is kind of being extreme, but it's going to be a great workout to go another hour up the river or whatever. It's opportunistic, and there's a different outcome that comes from that rather than being a sourpuss, I guess. So I don't know. For me, it's just continuing to learn more and more all the time and trying to apply these things and see how I do with it.
You're sitting here today at 32. What do you wish you knew 5 years ago that you know today? What's that one big thing you go, oh, I wish I knew that sooner?
Man, probably the water thing, actually.
Okay.
That's new information to me. I really think that if I would have known that years back, because now I'm going back and looking at all the properties that I've hunted over the last 5 years and going, okay, well, now how do I access this now that I know what I know? And that's actually been kind of fun to go back and look at some of the other properties and look at it through a different lens now that I've learned something new. And it's funny to think about, like, not to say, man, I was so stupid for not thinking of it that way. I just was naive. I didn't have that knowledge yet. So I'm excited going back to the future part. Like, what is it that I'm going to learn that I'm going to have that aha moment again where I'm going, how did I not realize this before? And I'm excited for those moments going forward. And looking back, I think the one that stands out to me currently, because it's top of mind, is the water stuff.
Yeah, we only can give what we have,
Yeah.
And we only know what we know. Everybody's heard that, but it's true until you listen to podcasts, and that's why I'm a huge proponent of podcasts. Not only my own, but anybody that's sharing what you want to learn about. Put some earbuds in, going back and forth to work, when you're working out, when you're, driving the car, whatever. Listen to podcasts and get smart. It's just like reading books. If you want to learn something, find people that are doing what you want to do and then go study them.
Yep, 100%.
Pretty simple.
Absolutely. You got it.
It's pretty simple, but we don't do it. Well, I know I've been doing this the same way for 15 years, and I know deer hunters that have been hunting the same stand for 15 years.
I didn't get a big one this year, and think
I'm going to get a big one. And have they killed some deer? Yeah. Have they killed the best deer in their section of the world? Probably not, because the deer for 15 years they passed it down that Harry's tree or Harry's rock is right there, and on this time he's going to be sitting there, and that's a tribute actually to Harry because he's passed. But he had a rock, and every opening day he would shoot a deer there. I mean, it was ridiculous. And
my buddy's got a stump. It's his stump.
Yeah, and people have stumps. You talk to Dan Smith from at Deer Hunting about the stump sitters and all that. That's how we used to hunt in the 60s and 70s. We'd find a tree, we'd find a stump, and I loved trees that snapped off about 9 feet high, and I crawl up in that, and then I cozy in, and that's where I'd hunt from. I had my own natural tree stand with a blind included, and I had does walk literally underneath me. If I was a cat, I could have just dropped right on them, and it's just you kind of lose that now. But actually, I'm going back to that because I'm away from hanging on tree stands. I can't do that anymore and set up new ladder stands. But I've got a sled and I've got a blind, and I'm hunting from the ground now. I hunt with a crossbow anyway.
Okay.
And so I'm hunting from the ground, and folks, I've talked to some really successful people that's all they do. They ground hunt. And so millions and millions of deer were killed from the ground, years back.
That's how I've been doing it, mainly because I'm too cheap to buy a new fancy safety harness. And now I have a 1-year-old daughter, so I'm contemplating if it's even worth getting up in a tree these days. And I've killed all my deer from the ground, so I feel like, well, I don't know, I really need a stand. Part of me kind of wants it because that's how I started hunting. But if I think back, I've never actually shot a deer from the stand. So
yeah.
They've all been on the ground.
So, folks, I'd like to hear about that. Send your comments, ground hunting versus tree stand hunting to whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts on that. And, when you think about where the hunting industry goes, and I just had a campfire series about why we hunt. Why do you hunt, Eric Clark?
Yeah, I've answered that question before, so I've had some time to think about it. And I hunt because my dad hunted. That's the simple answer. I don't have another answer. My dad hunted growing up. I looked up to him. I just fell in love with the idea of it. And so when I was old, I would watch these hunting shows back in the day. And when it was fall, I would spend time in the woods as a young kid, scouting deer and practicing hunting without ever having a weapon or anything like that, climbing trees, just being an outdoor goof. And, once I started hunting, like I said, I just fell in love with the process of it and getting out there. So, and now I'm a little too obsessed right now. I can't drive down the road without googly eye in every field I see to look for a deer and veering off to the next lane on accident. I'm worse than the people that drive with their cell phones trying to look for deer. It drives my wife crazy. I don't blame her. It's a terrible habit.
That's funny. What do you think about on social media when I post that I killed this just wonderful doe deer and she's going to be great organic protein, and somebody says, "Why'd you shoot that doe?" What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, everyone has these thoughts anyways. We always have. The whole world is connected now. You put something out there, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get something like that from someone who has their own opinion about the world, and it is what it is. I'm a pretty kind person. I'm not a big fire with fire kind of guy. I'm more let's kill them with kindness. That's my approach, because I don't want to live with regret, and being mean to someone isn't my forte. I think in my mind I go there a little bit, but then I get rationale and I come at it, and rational heads prevail, whatever the saying is there. But I think that's their prerogative and their opinion, but they might want to watch where they're hanging out on social media. If that's the kind of stuff you're seeing, you want to see it, stop following it. It's like tuning into a TV station on on YouTube that's very specific. Well, why are you watching it? Or a radio station that is conservative or democratic. Like, that's not what you want to see or listen to, then don't do those things. Because you're going to get some backlash because not everyone's like me and some people will tell you off. So that is what it is, I guess. But I'm all for, like, share what you're passionate about. Because if you're, what's the other saying? If you don't believe in anything, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
So by all means, believe in something, please. And if that's what they believe in, cool, good for you. But go on, move on. Go find someone else to hate on.
Yeah.
That's all.
One thing you didn't, I really liked it. I asked for some grips and grins. You know, with your hands around some bone, and you gave me some gripes. And grins. I think it
that's
was
funny.
It was funny. Gripes and grins, and I just said, "Oh man, that is so cool. I really like that." So let's go into your gripe. Do you remember what you wrote?
Yeah, I think I do. My gripe is just that I can't stand people hating on public property and public land. It just bothers me. It's such a privilege to have access to those 7
What do you
million acres.
mean by hating on?
People like public land hunting is the worst. It's not safe. It's dangerous. Only morons hunt it. It's just if it's brown, it's brown.
I don't see that. I don't see that out west. I mean, we're public land hunters.
It's visceral here, and it bothers me. It really bothers me because that's my heritage. That's what I grew up with, and I fundamentally believe that it is a privilege. There's other countries where you cannot hunt unless you own private property, and I'm sorry, but that's just not the majority here in Wisconsin. I don't know about elsewhere, but not everybody can afford their own slice of heaven. So the rest of us are left with the public property, and we're not lesser for that. I know plenty of guys that actually have access to private property but choose to hunt public land because they like the challenge. And it certainly is more challenging. So when I say people hate on it, I just mean, like, it doesn't have to have a bad name. It has a bad name because people say it does, but it doesn't. There's plenty of times I've hunted and I haven't run into another soul. And if I have, it's always been cordial. I've never had a problem with anybody out of my, do the math, over 15 years of hunting where I've had a situation or a problem. So I don't know where people get their information from when they think it's bad. And maybe someone had a bad experience, but that's not, one bad egg doesn't have to ruin it for everybody. That's my gripe.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because hunting, folks, isn't a right. It's a privilege given to us by each and every state and the federal government. Migratory birds, and there's some situations the federal government gets their fingers into the pot. But for the most part, hunting is regulated by your state. They have game commissioners. They have Sportsman's Advisory Board, which I've sat on the one in here in Colorado, blah, 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 blah. And it's a privilege, not a right. And so in the American model of hunting, it's definitely different than the European model because we have gazillion, of acres of public land. But we have to protect that. We still have to fight for that. And the thing I bring up, for somebody to bash somebody because they're hunting on public land, they don't understand, and they need to go back to school. And if you don't like that statement I just made, call me. I'm very easy to get a hold of. Whitetail Rendezvous, just Google it, and my SEO is really good. So You'll find me. But it's a privilege. Hunting is a privilege. Second Amendment is a right guaranteed to us by our Constitution.
We're very privileged to have that access. It means so much to me, and it would be catastrophic if we didn't have that access and I couldn't hunt public land. I wouldn't be hunting. I wouldn't be hunting. So why would I ever
shut down an industry? It would shut down an industry.
And I just don't understand the complaints and the hating on it. So that's my big gripe, if you will. I know it's supposed to be a grip, but that's my gripe.
That's funny. And then the next thing, and then we're going to close with this, your grin. What's your grin?
Sure. I think that's the positivity thing. I don't know. Just being positive about things. When I said earlier, I hunt for the experience and the adventure. I've said on my show and publicly, like, I'm the guy that you don't want to follow anywhere because I'll go into the weirdest, most terrible path ever. And there's plenty of examples of this with my friends. Like, we've gone through some disgusting, nasty terrain only to come and find out that there's a bridge right down the road that could have taken us where we need to go on a beautiful path. But for me, that those cuts that you get walking through thorn bushes and whatever else, those are cuts on your mind that last forever in a good, positive way. Like, you don't forget those. Those are indelible memories that are long lasting, and they're very impressionable. So the more adventurous I can be on a hunt, the more memorable it ends up being. That's what I love. I just love it. That's what I smile about. That's why when we go to deer camp, we go into the woods a little bit on Friday ahead of the hunt, and the stories literally feel like they come to life in the forest. That's where I got this one. This is where you helped me do that. Da, 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 da. That's what makes me smile. And those memories you can't take those from anybody. Those are amazing memories.
Yes, they are. They're forever memories, and that's what I love every fall going back. And this will be my 53rd year in Wisconsin hunting with the same family group.
Cool. That's amazing, man. That's a long time. That's a legacy right there. That's super cool.
Yeah, it is. And I am privileged to have that. That's for sure. So with that, we're going to wrap up another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We've been visiting with Eric Clark, Where to Hunt. He's a creator. He's a podcaster. And I think he's overall pretty good guy.
Thanks, Bruce. Right back at you, man.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.